Tell me when you feel good.
Feel good.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of season 2 of Raising Spirits. We're your hosts. I'm Will, and this gentleman is the never late, never tardy, always on time. Hey,
That's me. Yeah, buddy.
reputation precedes him. We're here to talk about the hospitality industry. We're here to talk about leadership, culture, business in general, smart shit, stupid shit, and everything in between. But today, being that this is the first episode of season 2, Nate, where the hell you been?
I've been around.
Other than the barbershop.
Yeah, I get around. Yeah, shout out to TC. He gets it done right. So, hey, actually, just last month, I just wrapped up my gaming casino operations management class through Kent State. So we had a hell of a trip out to Vegas, and I figured since we hadn't talked last, since we talked last, could talk about Vegas. So brought some of Vegas back with us. Nothing you wouldn't want to bring back, but it was 30 students out and back safely. We all made it. Got some great educational tutorials from experienced gaming professionals, a lot of people from a lot of different properties and different positions that the students were able to see what casino life kind of entails, and from the entire experience of guests. Some cool things were back of house or heart of house operations. The first time that we ever toured a facilities department, from seeing their water to their energy side, that you wouldn't really think what goes into your day to day when you're staying at a hotel or a resort, but all these things that need to be done right. From checking pH levels of pools to ensuring the water temperature, the cold water, to again, the energy that's put into the air conditioning and where they're getting their power from, and or bringing it into Las Vegas from, all those different things. Again, they're not top of mind. So being able to see some of that in firsthand experience was great for everyone.
Yeah, ever since we first got involved with this Kent course, was amazed. I wish they would have had this, back before I got into the industry, just to give you a showcase of every facet of it. I mean, really, you're going into operations, marketing, human resources, surveillance and security, events, and you're talking events at a scale, outside of what a lot of kids in Northeast Ohio are going to be able to see, unless they're working for the Cavs or the Guardians or something like that. Shout out to the tribe there. Yeah. So ever since we got involved with that, and obviously you've continued your involvement and upped it tenfold, to become adjunct professor, which shout out to Nate there. Being able to take these kids on a ride like that's got to have a lot of like good vibes coming from the industry, and being able to introduce people to it kind of, quote unquote, the right way.
Yes, sir. Something close to my heart's always been kind of the leadership facet throughout my career, and being able to watch and grow and develop, and then see the success that every individual has and the potential that they have, and watching them thrive in maybe a different setting, and then be able to go out to a place like Las Vegas and then succeed out there. I always took pride in that. And so, fresh 30 students, open-minded every year. About 60% of them are from our hospitality and event management major there. And then the other wide variety of from aviation to construction to business analytics to marketing, to fashion design, you name it, they can take this course as elective. And traditionally we'll end up with a lot of seniors that just need, 3-credit elective. But again, what better way to end your college career than take a trip to Las Vegas as part of your class and lab experience,
What's amazing though is even, someone in aviation or costume design or fashion design, as it were, there is a correlation in the business. When I was working in Nevada, the last job I had, we were scheduling 30, 40 flights a month. So there's fuel, flight cost, uh, routing, all these things that went into it that you wouldn't think, when you're coming into a casino, that's something you have to worry about. You look at the level of some of these shows. I know you were able to catch one or two on this trip as well, but the costume design, the set design, the mechanics of it, the music, the engineering, it's not just a bunch of slots and a couple of card tables anymore, which I think is what a lot of people, especially in areas where gaming's a little younger, they might think about. So now you were able to hit up quite a few properties, right? So I was thinking, we just work our way up the strip and talk a little bit about your experience, man, if you could, and tell us a little bit about the property and that you were able to see it, some of the people you were able to talk to, and some of the insights they were able to share, so that anybody who's listening, who's interested in gaming and maybe isn't involved just yet, can get a little picture of what there is to have, what there is to see, and what there is to do.
We stayed in the world-renowned Caesar's Palace, right? So, I always want to react
Gotta
to
love
the Hangover.
Caesar Augustus hailing a cab out front there,
There it is.
the statue. Love it.
And so we've been privileged to stay there over the past handful of years through a partner that we have out there, and through a relationship of, I encourage every student, the networking side of things. And this sounds cliche sometimes, it's not what you know, it's who you know, but it's so true. Every one property came from a person or a relationship that one of us have had over the years. And the beautiful thing is they don't owe us anything. We're a small college out in Ohio, and but every gaming operator that we speak to and that speaks to our class, you can feel that energy and that excitement because they once started somewhere as well. I remember the first exposure to a casino that I got, when I was in school, and some guys from Lake Tahoe came out and basically educated me on what this was. And I said, man, I want to be part of that. And so, again, when we go to these properties, it's all out of the kindness of their heart, them giving back, paying it forward to the next generation of gaming operators, hospitality professionals, and even not, as we mentioned, with different majors involved. But so we stay at Caesar's, Palace, and we first night we have an alumni dinner out there, and so there's that many Kent State students that somehow have migrated there over the years from, again, different majors.
Wow.
But a lot in the hospitality and event management, field or background. So had a nice mezcal tasting for the whole group. One of the gentlemen that came out of Kent a few years back in the food and beverage side works with the company, and they distribute alcohol across the strip. And so they put on a private tasting for us all. Had a private chef in there, cooking, and we got to understand a little bit more about mezcal. And that was kind of our welcome party to Vegas. Less than an hour and a half after being off the plane, drop your bags off in the room, and then get out there and taste some mezcal. So, a shout out to a lot of people throughout this, or pour a few up for Taylor Goodyear and Mike who put this on. There's a gal who runs a networking company actually out there, and she helps facilitate events, and works with a lot of different companies in the Vegas market. And again, a Kent alum, started her own business, and they hosted us at their office, and we were able to do this. And then we headed out to Fremont Street, and got to celebrate one of our students. So one of the requirements is they all have to be 21, right, in order to tour the casino. So we get there Sunday night, and one of the students, the last one that made the cut, turned 21 on Monday. So by our tour starting on Monday, he turned 21. So we went to literally sit outside on Fremont until the clock struck midnight, and went in to celebrate his 21st. So again, what better way? And it was just a great experience for a lot of the students in the class. And then we got into it right away on Monday. Again, staying at Caesars and touring that property. Our focus there, we got into gaming, high limit tables, and then got to tour the villas, where all their private villas that go from 5,000 a night to 25,000 a night.
Man. They got a killer spread out there, like every level you could think of. It's so impressive that they have that level of hospitality that goes from Ma and Pa Kettle coming out from Kansas can get a room, in the Augustus Tower, whatever, Octavius Tower, whatever,
Octavius,
whatever their
yeah.
Palace Tower, whatever, whichever one's the lower end one, and they can come and have a great time and feel like they really got taken care of, all the way down to butler service, in villa massage, private chef, like you said, just all that high level. I do miss the coordination that took to have some of those things going on. That is one thing I miss about the industry, coming from a destination property.
Absolutely. And the seeing the shock in their eyes, when we're in places bigger than, your house. And people there were a couple performers that were coming in. There was one specifically that had a residency at Caesars that, they were prepping and likes their certain room, likes their certain things. And again, it's about experience for them too, as celebrities and high end performers, as the same as it is for Ma and Pa from Kansas, as you mentioned. They focus on that experience, those touch points throughout the casino, and what goes into it again is just fascinating. So, but going from there, we actually, a handful of our students partook in Omnia. We got to tour Omnia nightclub in Caesars there, and their
Best $50
called
beer you can get.
there you go, there it is, and their Coliseum, where I think they had a I can't remember if it was Def Leppard coming through or some form. They had a few different concerts up and coming, but again, they traditionally have a residency there of a big name, and so it was nice to see that small venue, that customers and players are able to experience, and guests. And that was just talking with some of the production managers. You see what's in front of you on stage, but you don't realize all the intricate things that have to be in line, and what drummer likes this and what artist likes that. And again, that stuff is just, it's things you don't think about. And I don't really know how to put it into words, but Caesars has been very good to us. And again, we were able to, last year we went up in Nobu hotel, and they got their own Nobu scent, and all the students were gifted a Nobu candle, and just looking at their suites that are, again, just massive, and the outdoor patios and backyards and barbecue grills and pools, looking off to the strip. I couldn't imagine it. And if you read about it in a book, which that's part of the class, is truly the experience of getting out here, you wouldn't believe it if you just read it. So.
Mm-hmm. No, it's really an amazing property. They got so much going on, but nowadays they're all on that level. It used to be where Caesars that was their standout, was that their scale, and now it looks like every property you hit is going to have something on that level. You were staying at Caesars, you had Caesars, and then it looks like you moved down strip to the Aria, which is a beautiful property with a couple things. It's still, the city center is still connected there, so it's got the Crystals Mall and the Mandarin Oriental, all in that situation there.
Right in that
Cosmo is
general.
connected to that, so that's a happening busy spot with a lot, probably a whole different set of challenges.
Well, yeah, Aria was one of the newer properties in Las Vegas. It was great to get the students to see that, as Caesars is immaculate, but it's kind of an old feel, right? It's been around for a very long time. So
60s, right?
from the infrastructure standpoint, you could tell, but they do a great job of upkeep. But again, getting to a newer facility and resort, again, you can tell how they drive different markets, and they appeal to different demographics. And so Aria was spotless. Made me feel like I could kind of eat off the floor. And we started with a tour of facilities, as I was mentioning earlier, where not everyone thinks of what goes into keeping this place up and running. It's not just the locks on the doors and the keys and the the lights and the air conditioning units. It's units and heaters and generators and power supplies that are like multiple stories. And just the process of the water, of getting it into every hotel room, to managing and monitoring the parking garage and guest safety. Again, you don't think about all those things, and I was asking him, can I drink the tap water? This big old process that goes into getting these rules. He said, it's still not where you would drink it, but again, everything that goes into it and the temperature of that and the rooms and it's the process. You'd think you could drink it. And so then, seeing their main hub where they have almost their dispatch and all their monitoring systems of every different thing from left to right. And, I recall working in the casinos and dreading the smoke alarms and evacuations, that would take place if the smoke alarm didn't get cleared by a certain time, having to take all of our players to the garage and such. It was
The garage, if you're lucky. If you remember when we didn't have a garage,
outside.
we evacuated that thing in the snow, in the rain. There for the viewers at home, the previous property that we both worked at, when it first opened, there was not a local ordinance that would allow for the investigation of an alarm. If an alarm went off, the house is on fire, you got to get out. And so when alarms would go off, we would have 2 minutes to determine whether the house was on fire, which was rarely time enough at a place, a casino is a large building with a lot of nooks and crannies. And so you'd be escorting your best players out at 10 o'clock in the rain, in the snow, on Halloween, during the Kentucky Derby. I remember doing it once. I think it was good 7, 8 times that I did it. And I'm sure being in slots, many more times that Nate did it. So yeah, facilities is a unsung hero. When it goes right, you'll never notice it. But when it goes wrong, it could have you out there in a puddle on a Friday night when you should be gambling.
And prying customers off of the machines when something could be truly, a situation.
You can't get them up.
Right?
People died when the old MGM caught fire. People died because they wouldn't get off their machines. Where I worked previously in Laughlin, the year before I started there was a shooting. It was during the River Run motorcycle rally.
Hell's
and
Angels,
there was
right?
Hell's Angels and the Mongols. Somebody pulled a knife at a gunfight and it went off. And the security guards would tell stories that they'd have to tackle people because they wouldn't stop hitting the button. They were upset that the dealer had ducked. They weren't having it. There were people that were on the ground that were still had their hand up, tapping that button to keep things going because what else are they going to do? The last thing they were going to do in their life was going to hit that button. I don't know what they were going to do if they hit the jackpot and then got shot, but it's amazing the mentality that some players have. The vast majority of players are normal everyday people, but you got some unique characters that we'll get into in a future episode. Avid experienced gamers, we used to call them in the business.
That sounds politically correct. Professional gamers. So we finished off that, and we got some pretty exciting facial recognition kind of tutorials from our friends in surveillance. And it's not
Shout
just
out to George Orwell.
He sounds nice. They not only stopping crime, but they're for instance, they showed us a situation where their facial recognition found a gentleman who dropped $100 bill, right, or clip of bills, and their team member wasn't shady enough to try to pocket it and go into a bathroom, as we've once had, but he returned it, and again they found this gentleman later that day, and of course he was pleasantly surprised. But that's the place you want to be at, where you feel secure, you feel safe, and that someone's looking out for you when you're away from home. So but a lot of I was actually talking to Angela yesterday about it when we wrapped up our last class downtown, and that they were using some of that technology basically where it monitors the movement of everybody. I don't know if it's necessarily infrared technology, but basically they have these up near the cameras that it can monitor all the traffic patterns, so after an event goes out, who stays, who goes, and he was explaining how they're even using it in in their bathroom, I guess, restroom department, if you will, EVS and environmental department, to determine how many customers need to go in and out before they proactively go change the toilet paper, change the hand soap, change the paper towel. And, not to mention for slot placement purposes, trying to get the hot
Hmm.
game in a certain area or the not hot game in an area that's going to constantly get played. Um, all the different uses of that were pretty interesting. But again, getting the crew back behind the scenes to see, looking at kind of some of the card counting situations going on, some of the different, you know, gambling rings that have made efforts on different properties out there and what they're looking for, given those tells that everybody inadvertently does when they're dealing with, I guess, any type of situation, especially one that's more uncomfortable. You're going to give those tells off, and so they're trained at what to read. But again, that was just another unique situation for our students to get kind of that behind the scenes and a team that you don't necessarily think of on a regular basis. So, and then we wrapped up Aria with we worked with their HR, talked with a few of them from team member placement and college recruitment, and then got up to some of their suites and stuff. And again, I could talk about these suites for every property that we visited. That to me are like just immaculate palaces. I feel like that customers get to go stay at for days or weeks and experience this. So to us, it was jaw dropping to where you had any of your, you got a bottle of Louis 13 sitting in the room in a cabinet waiting for you to open it and crack the bottle. What? Yeah, don't leave me alone in that room.
It is indicative of, I think we've talked about it before, just how different the spend patterns are now. You used to be able to just give them a room because they gambled all night and they needed a place to drop. And now, the room is a part of the appeal. That's part of what's driving the trip. And the
Yeah.
gambling is secondary or tertiary to all the other things, the shopping, the dining, the entertainment.
Yep.
It's a whole different world. And being able to show the kids that and show them, things that are new to us, just having been a couple years removed from gaming, it is just moving at such a pace and the technology that they're able to put into it. That facial recognition stuff, terrifying in the hands of the government, but I can imagine how much easier it would have been to find, lost tickets or track down, card malfunctions when we're trying to make sure somebody gets, the rewards that they're due for their play. I remember doing that by hand, tracking from machine to machine, seeing the coin in and making sure that we updated those points on the back end. And that was just such a painstaking process. And it's damn near automatic, it sounds like now.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Again, not everything you would think it would be used for, but there's so many different purposes that they're coming up with. So, in the database that houses these, probably millions of faces that have walked in and out those doors, and how accurate it is unbelievable. You just pick my face, and if I told you I wasn't at the casino, for months, and it pulled like 20 pictures of me, you'd be like, damn, this thing's good.
That's got to be amazing from a compliance standpoint for self restrictions or evictions or anything like that. That's got to be a huge boon for the frontline team to not have to worry about remembering faces or getting caught, with your pants down on a self restriction or something like that.
Absolutely. Shout out to Ed Dick, Mr. Compliance.
Oh yeah,
They
go blue.
I always imagine best damn place get cold there in Brunswick. I remember they had all these pictures, right? They had a stapled, packet of papers of all these bolos, be on the lookout of this person, that person for whatever reason. And, at every podium, and it's obvious when they're flipping through it, looking as they're checking an ID. But this day and age, you don't have to do that. You're gonna obviously run every ID through the card reader, and you're either in or you're out. And but yeah, all those different pieces again to an operation are very unique, and the technology that's been kind of implemented over the years makes life, I would imagine, makes life easier for a lot of people. Speaking of technology and new, one of our favorite properties, or my personal favorite properties that we went to was Circa, off the strip, right? So, downtown Las Vegas, the D Casino, is affiliate is Circa, which was built, I think, around 2020 or 2019, give or
Just
take.
about, yeah.
One of the newest properties, and so, in talking with kind of their head of operations there, Rami, he told me they were able to fortunately think of all those different things, such as, traffic patterns of people from in the casino to the exterior and the rideshare usage and the taxis. And, that's one of the 21 and up casinos, right? So you can't even walk through there with your family. And so you think about that from a market standpoint. You got families often coming to Las Vegas to partake in whatever, but
Especially
there
down in
you
that Fremont area.
they're solely focused on, their customers who are 21 and up, and wanting to be away from, their families, their friends, and just get away. And so that way they can connect. And whether it's each gambler or their stadium swim, that's one of the most immaculate,
That's crazy.
parts of their property. The square footage that place has and houses, for their events, and all the large jumbotrons and TVs that they have out there, the pool parties and cabanas and everything else that they have. I mean, you ride this escalator up, like it feels like 3, 4 stories for like 5 minutes, and that was thought about by them, and then up on their top floor where they have their kind of their VIP, bar and lounge area. Of course, it has a beautiful view of the city, but right up there, they got their gold bars. And, at the time when they built the property, it's a pretty cool showcase, because I think it was Binions that had the $1 million in cash that they always had on display back
Oh
in the
yeah.
day. And so, they're, I think Derek, one of their owners, had put these gold bars, and whether it was $1 million at the time, but from years ago to last year to this year, seeing that number just rise, and it has a ticker that has the current value of those gold bars, and that's pretty cool. And that's definitely, I think, a staple of being downtown on Fremont Street, is checking out Circa.
Yeah, and the Fremont streets, it always has been a different, completely different experience to the rest of the strip, but it's nice to have something that isn't necessarily family oriented. If you want to get away and have that time, and from an operation standpoint, I got to imagine it's so much less worry not having liability, having kids running around. The sister property, is that the D? Was that is that the old Fitzgerald's?
I don't know what it was in the past, in all
No,
honesty.
it's either
All
that
I
or
know
West
is
Basement.
they brought in that big old neon sign of Vegas whiskey, so we made sure to get a class picture in front of that, and they housed that right in the center of their casino. Again, honoring the old downtown
Oh,
Las
is that
Vegas.
Sassy Sue?
That's Vegas
Wasn't it?
Vicky,
Because I thought that yeah, Vegas Vic. The
and then Vegas Vicky, she's kind of got her legs
I
crossed,
thought
and
I
there
thought
might
that
be a
the
sassy
casino was
Sue.
called.
That might be
That
the
might be
knockoff.
the other end of Fremont Island. It's been years and years since I've been on Fremont Street. It's the last time I was there. They were shooting up heroin on the street. It is a completely different experience now. Like they it went way down, and then post COVID, from what I've seen and from people that we know out there, they really cleaned it up. You got that whole entertainment district now over to the what is that, to the east, with all these bars, restaurants, honky tonks, swing suites, piano bars, like everything you can think of over there. From you take your Tremont and your Ohio City and Legacy Village, and put it all together, and it's all this big entertainment area now that used to be just desolate and kind of abandoned. So a whole different story, and to be able to capitalize on that for them, that's got to be huge.
Absolutely. I think they call that a district.
Producer note here, we had a lot of Vegas ground to cover, so join us next week for part 2, where we'll discuss the Palms, the Cosmo, visit the Raiders at Allegiant Stadium, and make a pit stop close to home. Raising Spirits is a New Standards podcast hosted by Nate Geeson and Will Hockney. Produced by yours truly, Ashley. Theme music by Marcus McLaughlin. Musical director, Angel Flowers. Please like, follow, and share our podcast on YouTube. Find all our socials by visiting newstandardconsulting.com /raising spirits. See you next week for round 2.